All right, so for anyone watching, I'm just testing out. Excuse me. I'm just testing out like multi-streaming. I've never done it before, so I'm just yeah, trying it out. And I need to. So for anyone watching, I'm just testing out. Excuse me. I'm just testing. I have an echo because I think I have one of my streams open. I think I fixed it though. We'll find out in a second. Okay. So I thought I would just kind of fart around in Maya for a little while I'm testing this out just to see how it goes. Um, I have this idea for like a scene with a house in it, so I'm just kind of blocking it out at the moment. Nothing special. Um, kind of just like planning it out at the moment. I do have some images that I'm using for reference, but I think at the moment I'm just kind of building it out a little bit. Oops. Ideally, all of this stuff is going to get replaced by actual models, but I'm just kind of trying to block out block out the structure at the moment. So I'm not really super concerned with how any of this stuff looks. So mainly I'm just here trying to figure out the features for Streamlabs when you're multi-streaming. Because I've never done this before, I'm kind of clueless. Really wouldn't make sense for the water mill to be under the stairs because there needs to be a river flowing through it, right? So there's going to be like a river if I keep the water mill there, right? So there would be a river like right in here. So it wouldn't really make sense unless I do like a little bit of like a dock or like a little bridge over the river, like the stairs going into like a little bridge, which I could do. I like the aesthetics of the like the stairs going over the watermill. Um, but I also want it to kind of make sense practically. Right, so if there's a river running through here, we really want these stairs going down. Or would I want to put the stairs over here? I guess it looks right. I would need to do a little bridge. Probably need to do like a little bridge here anyway. I think it'd make a lot more sense for the stairs to be over there. But I also feel like there could be another set of stairs back here. Or we could put the water mill on the inside, right in here. And have the the river kind of going under the house. Not sure about that. To be honest, I'm not even sold on having the water mill attached to the house. I could have it I could have it like off over here. And just kind of like going, like have a structure built here. My idea with this is kind of just to have like a little house in a forest. And I'm just kind of blocking things out now, just trying to figure out the scenery, the landscape, how I want it to work, and then I'll go and actually model everything. I felt like this would be a good project to live stream. Right now, I'm just kind of testing out the live stream, but I felt like this would be a good project to live stream. Because I'm going to do it a little bit more detailed than the other like simple house that I have, the tutorial series I have on my channel. I'm going to go a little bit more detailed with this one, and I'm going to try to do like a toon or like an illustrated look to it. So I want it to kind of look something like this. This is basically just a bunch of AI generated reference images of kind of the look that I want this thing to have. Probably something along the lines of this right here. But I want there to be, to be honest, I'm not even sold on the watermill being there. But I do like the idea of there being sort of a river and a bridge. But I kind of like to make these decisions before I get too deep, right? These sort of like foundational decisions. Even thinking about like the angle that, I want this to be something that can be rendered at all angles because I have plans for this, like where this is an actual place where people live, right? Um, and yeah, so I want it to be visible from all different sides. Yes, not quite sure what I want to do with it yet. I feel like if I do a river, it would need to be a lot bigger, right? Like not just a stream. I think what I was thinking is this would be like a stream, and then going into a much bigger river. But I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm going to think about it more and then kind of just block out some other parts of this model. See, this is kind of why I want to make those decisions early on, and why I think it's necessary to do this, because if I do start kind of planning this out where the stairs are on this side, it's going to be it wouldn't be that big of a deal to move them, but it would kind of be a pain to have to move them. But it's not really that big of a deal. It's not. If I want to move things around, I can. Nothing is permanent right now, or ever, really. Um, I'm just trying to establish a little bit of a plan here for this domicile. I want it to look cool, right? I kind of want I kind of want this chimney to be visible from this side. Means I would need to make it a lot taller. I mean, I guess it depends on the angle. If I do an angle kind of like this, it would be visible. I think that's okay. Again, I don't want to like decide, I don't want to set any decisions in stone yet. And I think what I want to do here I like doing it this way. I like kind of building things in kind of a hodgepodge way because I want it to look like it's built in a hodgepodge way. So I'm not really, at least when I'm blocking it out, I'm not really thinking about like um, being organized or anything, right? Like my outliner is kind of crazy right now. Um, but eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of this and kind of combine it together because all of this is going to get replaced. Um, yeah, all of this is going to get replaced. This none of this is permanent. So I'm actually going to model out texture everything. Um, but I feel like it's always a good idea to kind of plan things out. So you can get an idea of like how they're going to look, right? Like in you're kind of just like refining your imagination a little bit, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times you think of things in your head, right? Like oh, I have this great idea, this perfect idea. I know exactly the way that I want it to look like in my head. But the reality is you don't, right? The reality is you have no idea what it looks like in your head because that's just, at least as far as I'm concerned, that's not the way that my brain works. I don't actually see things in my head. Um, what I have going on in my head is just like a bunch of different sort of feelings and ideas, right? Like I want it to evoke a certain feeling. Um, I want it to have certain elements in it, and you kind of get this um, not really a visual representation in your head, but it's and I don't really know the right words for it. It's like a summary of it, right? Like you get like this summary of it in your head. You can't really see it, right? But you have a sense of everything it consists of. So typically people aren't going to I mean, people always say, I know exactly what I want it to look like in my head. Um, but the reality is that's just not the way our brains work. Um, what we have in our head is like a cluster of feelings and emotions and ideas that we want this thing to evoke. And sometimes that cluster of ideas and feelings don't work, right? Sometimes it's like trying to take a two-dimensional anime character and modeling them in 3D. If you've ever tried to do that, you know it's very difficult to pull it off and get it right. It's because those two-dimensional drawings, they just don't work in 3D space. And it's a very similar thing going on in your head when you have an idea, right? Because sometimes that cluster of feelings and ideas that you have in your mind, they just don't work whenever you put them together. The puzzle pieces don't quite fit together. Um, and this is something that happens all the time, right? And it's one of the reasons artists, when you're being taught to be an artist, it's one of the reasons you're always kind of told to use reference because you can't really trust what's in your brain to be translated properly visually, right? Um, so you have to plan things out. You have to look at reference. You have to not just make things up as you go. You have to kind of see what everything we do is basically in some form representative of the real world that we live in. Um, And if it's too far outside of that scope, then it just doesn't connect with us, right? We connect with the things that we are used to seeing, even if it's something like really far out there, like alien like, right? I always say, if and I read a lot of sci-fi too, but if we ever were to come in contact with aliens, we would there's no possible way we could imagine what they look like, because we're very biased with our imaginations, and we can only comprehend things that relates to us in a certain way. So um, if you have like this alien species that come, they're going to look different, right? But my point with that is, um, no matter what you do, you have to kind of base everything off of a frame of reference that we as humans have, right? Everything's sort of based off of the real world. And if we can't connect to it on a human level, we just won't connect to it. So you need to look at reference, right? You need to look at it when you're doing a house. You need to look at actual pictures of houses and kind of see the clusters of objects and things that are around that house. Um, and the reality is always way more complex than your imagination, right? The reality is far more detailed than what's going on in your imagination. So if you leave it up to just your imagination, you're always going to get a simplified version, or sort of like a child version of reality. So we have to look at reference, right? Now, there's some situations where people are good enough artists and they've been doing it long enough. They sort of have this mental library of things where they may not necessarily need reference. I don't think I'm there yet. I think it takes a lot to get there. So, in the meantime, we're going to be looking at reference. And I think I kind of have it blocked out as much as I really want it blocked out. Maybe put another door back here, a door over here, maybe another window. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? I sort of want this to be like a hybrid fantasy sci-fi thing. So one of the elements that I wanted to have in here was some solar panels. Kind of difficult to do on a really pitched roof. My dog's behind me licking his paws. So we'd want these solar panels to be kind of tilted up. So I kind of want it to seem like they're There's a few little sci-fi elements in here, like maybe like some sort of antenna here too. So the story that I kind of want to tell here, without getting too deep into it, is that this is a little cottage or cabin on an alien planet that the people who are living in it came to that planet to try to hide, and so there's they built this house, so they're trying to hide, they're trying to be secluded from the rest of the galaxy, but they also want to stay informed, right? So there's instruments and things like that. Hey Knox, would it be a good idea to put the solar panels on the crest of the roof? The joint to follow the sun. Yeah, that's cool. That would be a cool idea where there's like a mechanical arm that would like tilt. Um, yeah, I might do something like that. Or I could do like I could do like a satellite dish on a mechanical arm that could like turn around. I was thinking when I complete everything, this will be like in the forest, and I can have a like some rays of light kind of coming through the trees, and just kind of like a pool of light right here where the solar panels are. So like they have it in the perfect position where that's where the light hits the house, you know, something like that. But again, like I'm just sort of blocking things out at the moment, and I'm actually going to model all of this stuff at some point, maybe on stream. I'm probably going to start with the roof, um, because I want the roof to have like an interesting like curved shape to it, something like this, to where there's a little bit of a curve in this direction and probably a little bit of a curve, because this is kind of the look I'm going for. I'm going to try toon shading this, um, to get like a really illustrated look. So I think if I can exaggerate those things, right, that would help. How's it going, Bine? I am just This stream is I am really live. Can you believe it? I'm testing out multi-streaming. So this is the first time I've ever multi-streamed anything. So I'm on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, hopefully all at the same time. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of try it out. And I had this project in mind. So yeah, that's why we're here. I don't know how much longer I'll be on, but um, I do plan on streaming more. Maybe at least one night a week, if not multiple nights a week. Because I really enjoy streaming, and I think it's a good way to stay motivated. Because as I get older, motivation is a very, very important thing. Right. So here's a little satellite dish. I could end up putting that on a like a mechanical arm. You know, another thing I could do, I just thought of this. It might give it a really cool sci-fi look. Eco roof. Yeah, I thought about that with just like grass and stuff. Um, Looking down at the terrain. Yeah, I definitely thought about that. That so I a little kind of this is an idea I've oh thanks. Yeah, I wanted to do I'm talking about two things at once. First, let me talk about this real quick. So I've always wanted to do a web comic, and that's kind of where this is going. Or you know, it may never get off the ground, but this is kind of like my idea for this is to do a web comic, and I've had this story in my head for a long time, so that's kind of where I'm going with this. And they are in hiding, but they're not necessarily hiding, right? So they're on like this planet, but they're safe from being found on this planet. So they're like on a planet where no one's going to find or look for them, right? So they're not. It's not like people are actively searching for them on the planet. They're on kind of like they're they're on a very secluded, like the planet itself is hidden. So they don't necessarily need to hide from things on the planet, but they're kind of exiled. I think that's probably a better word to use. They're kind of exiled. So they're not necessarily hiding, um, but they're kind of hiding. Thank you. I do still plan on doing the interior of the vehicle modeling course, or modeling all the interior. That might also be something that I do in live streams. Um, since I have the whole thing modeled, not in a live stream, right? It's recorded. I might do something like that in a live stream and like schedule it. So like on Thursdays, I will live stream vehicle modeling, and on Mondays I'll live stream just doing other random things. I would like to make a schedule. As I get older, it gets a lot harder to stay focused and motivated, and I feel like the days get shorter and shorter as I get older. So I think it's going to be necessary for me to kind of make a schedule and try to adhere to that schedule. I've been doing Inktober, and that's been a lot of fun, and that forces me to work on something every single day. So I've been enjoying doing Inktober. But I'm not much of a drawer, right? I don't draw a lot. I should draw more. I enjoy drawing, but like 3D is kind of where I thrive, right? 3D is kind of where I feel really comfortable working in. So I do sketch out my ideas, and I always recommend putting, make it exist first and then make it good. But I really sort of thrive in the 3D workspace, and that's what I really enjoy. Um, yeah, I really want to do the webcomic, and my idea is if I do this in 3D, right? It's just a matter of kind of like if I spend the time to get the characters modeled and rigged and the environments modeled and rigged and everything, to do different frames of the webcomic. It's just going to be a matter of kind of setting things up and rendering them, and then adding text bubbles and things like that. Um, so we'll see. We'll see if I can stay motivated enough to do that. I would like to, but so to answer the other question there, if I'm a freelancer or full-time employee, I'm a teacher full-time. So I teach 3D modeling full-time at a small college in Florida. So that's what I do full-time. And because of that, I also get really burned out, right? Because I talk about modeling in Maya all day. So it does kind of burn me out to get done talking about Maya all day and then to jump in and work on my own things. I kind of had that going on earlier today, because I've been planning to start this for a while. But today specifically on Mondays, I have like two back-to-back classes, and each class is 2.5 hours. So, and then I have a small 30-minute break between them. So basically, like a 5 hour straight lecture of just me talking about stuff in Maya. So I get done with that, and I kind of just don't want to look at Maya for a while, or any 3D application, right? But this is my art form, right? So I need to try not to get myself burned out. Not a big deal. Oh, my mic. So this happens because I should be able to fix it, or I might mess up my stream. I'm going to try. Usually, if I just unplug my audio input and plug it back in, it'll fix it. I'm going to try it. Okay. We'll go with this. I think that might fix it. My sound quality is probably not going to be the same, but it looks like it's working. And let me know. Let me know if it's working. It looks like it's working in Streamlabs, so I'm going to go with it's working. But yeah, I'll have to figure that out for future streams. Sorry, I didn't realize that you guys I'm doing multi-streaming for the first time here. So I'm talking to sound is low now. Try that. Does that sound any better? That's okay. I'm doing this stream so I can kind of work out all these kinks. So I appreciate the input, and I'm talking to one person in Twitch and I'm talking to one person on YouTube. So that's why I'm only in your left ear now. Okay. Let me try something. Sound issue. Yeah, I'm trying to work that out. But that's the whole reason I'm doing this stream, is to kind of work these things out. So let me try. To restart my voice meter. So I'm just going to stick with what works for now, and then I'll figure out the other thing later. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out later. But thanks for keeping me informed. Again, that's the whole reason I'm doing this stream, is so I can kind of work out those little issues. And my audio interface occasionally does kind of do weird things. I probably just need to plug it into a more reliable USB outlet. But yeah, I appreciate you guys helping me out with that for sure. Now I can't remember what I was talking about, but that's all right. um, I'll go back and after I'm done streaming, I'll go back and watch the VODs and kind of be able to pick out what the sound issue is. I think what I was saying, actually I don't even remember what I was saying. What's the best way to scatter grass and rocks in grass? Grass is kind of a complicated thing. There's a bunch of different ways you can do grass. In one of my, but generally to scatter things, I use mash. I can show you that really quick. So like say you have a bunch of rocks. Right, so I'll just take a little, actually let's do yeah, so say you have some rocks. Ooh. And so we'll kind of manipulate these a little bit so they all look a little bit different. Rocks are kind of easier to talk about than grass because grass can, the problem with grass is that in order for it to look like grass, you need a lot of it, right? So like there's a bunch of different tricks that you can do to sort of fake having a lot of grass. So there's a bunch of different ways people go about using grass. But in order to scatter it on the ground, what you would do is you make some variations, right? So I have a couple different rocks here, and I'm going to make sure that those are centered on the grid, right? So now they're all over here centered on my grid. And let's try to stay kind of organized here, right? So let's name these. So we've got rock 1, rock 2, and rock 3. And we're going to make a mesh network. So with rock 1 selected, I come up here to my mesh network. It's also in your mesh menu. So right here, we're going to make a mesh network out of that. And then in the mesh network, if you've never used mesh before, it's basically a cloner, right? So it's just a way to take objects and clone a bunch of them. But there's a lot of different really cool things you can do with it. Like you can randomize your objects, and so there's a lot of really cool things you could do with mesh. And the way mesh works is whenever you create a mesh network, you have this node here, which is called your mesh waiter, and that's all of this stuff here. Then you have a mesh distribute. So if we were to look at your mesh object now, how about now? Okay, sound works a little bit now, but I think it's kind of low. So let me just try to increase it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why the sound went out there. I obviously have issues with my sound, so that's something I'm going to have to work on. I bet if I restart Streamlabs, it would fix it, but I don't want to restart Streamlabs because I think it would mess up the stream. But anyway, we're going to take the ground plane. And let's move the ground plane all the way down here at the bottom of our outliner. All right, so we have our mash waiter, right? So this is where all of our mash stuff is over here. And I realize that you can't see. Let me just move this right here. All right, so way down here at the bottom, we have the mash waiter. And then rock 1, 2, and 3, ground plane. Right, so in the mash waiter, I'm going to go over here to distribute and set my distribution type to mesh. And then I'm going to middle mouse drag my ground plane here into input mesh. Right, so now I'm getting my rocks sort of spread out all over my mesh, and it's set to scatter, so they're just being scattered throughout my mesh. Right, now if I want, I created 3 rocks, right? So I want all 3 of them to kind of show up on my mesh. So to do that, I first need to create, or I first need to bring them into this node, my repro node. So I'm going to middle mouse drag rock 2 into that one and rock 3. And then I can hide my original rocks. And then I'm going to add a ID. So I'm going to go to this mash waiter and add an ID node. And that should automatically be set to 3. I'm going to set my ID type to random. And now I'm getting random rocks distributed or scattered along my plane. I can increase this to something like 500. Right. Now, the next problem that we have here is that they're all facing the same direction. So there's not really any randomization to that. They're all kind of just facing the same direction and they're all the same size. So the next thing I'd want to do is add a random node. And then with this random node, I can change the rotation, the position, right, and the scale. Well, I kind of expected that to happen with Twitch, to be honest. I've streamed on YouTube quite a bit. And I've never got bots, but with Twitch, I certainly expected to get bots. How do I kill it? Let's see if I can kill it. Do I have to do that in Twitch? See, I don't even think I have Twitch open. How do I destroy you? Follow, whisper, invite, report. Spam. Block. Nice. So I just got my first bot, and I just reported my first bot. Specific areas, yes. So again, Mash is really cool. You can do a lot of really cool things with Mash. So if you only wanted these in specific areas, you could do a few different things. So what I would do, like say I just wanted my rocks to be, well, there's a couple different ways you could do it, right? So like one really easy way to go about that would just to have a mesh, right? That's not your ground. That's just kind of like a placeholder, and it's just in the area that you want the rocks, right? So I could, like, for example, say I have my mesh here that I'm using as my ground plane, but say I only wanted rocks on this little square right here. So what I could do is I could just duplicate this, and then I could just make a right. I could just kind of make a little placeholder mesh like this. So say I only want the rocks right there on that area, and then I would just use that instead of this big ground plane, right? So I would go to my Mash waiter and go to the distribute node, and I would just replace that, my entire ground plane, with that other one that I just created there, right? So I'll put that in there. So now all my rocks are just in that area. The other thing that you could do, if you wanted to do it fully within Mash, is to create a visibility node, right? So you go into your Mash waiter, and you have a visibility node, right? So I can create this visibility node, add visibility, and then I'm going to go to fall off object and right click and create a fall off object. And then you basically get this little widget, this little circle that you can move around, and your rocks are only going to be visible within that fall off object. So Mash is so powerful for just like scattering and cloning objects. It's probably one of the closer things that you have to like geometry nodes in Blender, which really probably the closest thing that we have to geometry nodes in Blender in Maya is Bifrost. You can do almost everything with Bifrost that you can do with geometry nodes. That's probably not true, right? Probably can do some things with geometry nodes that you can't do with Bifrost, and vice versa. Like you can do liquid simulations and fire simulations and stuff like that with Bifrost, and you can kind of model and do things, really cool things with geometry nodes in Blender. But Mesh is kind of just like a cloner, right? So you can do a lot of really cool things with Mesh. And in fact, let me pull it up real quick just on my channel. So if you go to my channel, I know you said you've been following the vehicle modeling tutorials, but I have all of these stylized environment creation videos. We use Mesh a lot in there, so I'd really recommend checking some of these out if you want to learn a little bit more about Mesh. I'm probably going to use Mesh quite a bit in this project. Mesh is just something that I really enjoy using. It's a lot of fun. And then grass is a little bit different. Like you can do grass in a lot of different ways, right? You can do individual blades of grass if you want. You can do a grass card, right? So what a lot of people will do is, let me get a browser up here. A very popular thing for video games, right, is you make like these grass textures essentially, and you just map them to polygon planes. So it's something like this, and then you just scatter those. So it's just one sort of quad polygon, but it looks like a bunch of different blades of grass because it's got a texture on it. So that's one way you can do grass. You can also model really stylized looking grass, right? So something like that, and you can scatter that with Mesh. So grass, there's a lot of different, grass is kind of a big subject, right? Kind of like hair. There's tons of different ways we can go about doing hair. Can type band, that's good to know. So band name. Yeah, that's good to know. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can do grass. You can do trees this way. Because I'm going to be sort of toon shading with this, it's going to be challenging. I need to figure out how to do it. But I'd love to get like grass like this, because I want this to have like a really illustrative style to it. And these are just AI generated images that I'm kind of using as inspiration. But yeah, hopefully that's kind of informative on how to scatter objects. You can also use it to put objects on a curve. So yeah, Mesh is a lot of fun to play around with. But with rocks, so a lot of people will do this and they'll just do like one rock or like one little thing of grass. With rocks and plants specifically plants, right? Like what makes them look real and cool is variety. So not just having grass, but having like some weed type plants like mixed in with it, or like some bushes, right? Even if we look at one of these AI generated things that I have for reference here. If we look at one like this, right? What makes this look so cool and natural is the variety of different types of plants, right? So you have this grass, you have these pink leaves. These are kind of like, looks like almost like a monstera plant, and then you have these darker green leaves. So getting variety is key to get like a natural looking field of grass or just forest look. So just be sure that whenever you're creating your grass or whatever, you have lots of different types of variety of plants, right? Not just grass, but lots of, even if you go out and like look at your yard, right? I live in Florida, so grass here is everywhere. So I know in some parts of the country there's not a lot of grass, but in Florida it's grass, and it's never one type of grass. There's like 10 different types of grass in my yard. So having variety is kind of key to that whole thing. So I think I'm going to call it here. I think this is a good test stream. I will continue to work on this on a stream, so I will stream more, especially now that I got my multi-streaming working, and I'm paying for multi-streaming, so you can bet that I'm gonna use it. But yeah, let me save this. Let me actually start a project for this, and we'll call this forest home. Make sure it's set. And then we're going to save it as house block out. All right, so yeah, I will be back. I will stream more for sure. I'm probably going to play around with some of the features, maybe get a cooler looking layout for my stream. But yeah, I'll definitely be back streaming more often, hopefully a couple nights a week, if not more than that. I usually find if I tell myself I'm going to work on a project for 2 hours a week a night, I usually find if I set that goal for myself, I end up working on it for like 20 hours a week. So usually if I can just sit down and kind of get started on it, I'm pretty good at like keeping my momentum on those projects. So Knox, if you haven't checked out if you don't know about my YouTube channel, let me link that up for you real quick. There's my my YouTube channel. So I'd encourage you to check that out if you haven't already. I don't know what my schedule is going to be yet. I definitely want to get a schedule and stick to it. It'll probably be Monday nights. I think Monday is a good night for me to stream. Maybe like Mondays, and probably not Wednesdays. Maybe like Mondays and Thursdays, depending on the time, probably around 7 or 8. Maybe a little earlier than tonight. Tonight was very spontaneous and last minute. So yeah, definitely Mondays. I think Mondays would be a good night to stream. and I could kind of sit down and work for 3 or 4 hours on a Monday night, no problem. So yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'll mess around with Twitch and YouTube and see if I can set up a schedule. But yeah, I definitely want to stream more. This was just kind of like a shakedown cruise trial run. I think it went pretty well. I got to talk to you guys for a little bit, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think that's it. We will call it a night, and I'll see you guys again soon. Maybe sooner than later. I might do this again tomorrow night. We'll see. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. I'll put a post on YouTube a few hours before. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. It's hard to what I used to do on YouTube is I would schedule a stream so you'd get like the notification that it would pop up. I don't know if I can do that with multi-streaming. If I do, I need to figure that out. I think with multi-streaming, you just kind of have to go live. But I can definitely make a post. I'll figure that stuff out. Morning, where are you at? It's morning there, so you got to be in like I'm trying to guess. Definitely somewhere on the other side of the world. I would say maybe like India or something. Australia. Asia, yeah. Cool. That's cool. I look at my my demographics on YouTube occasionally, and a lot of my views come from India and Asia, which I think is pretty cool. That I have people from Nepal. That's cool. I've always wanted to go there. I see the pictures and it's beautiful. Maybe one day. All right. Well, you guys have a good night, and I'll see you soon. I'll definitely post a few hours before I go live. Considering that it's morning for you, maybe I'll try to do it the day before. But eventually, I would like to get a set schedule. So just every day, I will stream, or every day I'll stream at a specific time. We'll see. I also have a Discord. Let me link that up to you as well. And I'm pretty active on Discord. There's not a lot of people on my Discord at the moment, but I'm pretty active, and because the college I teach at, my students use Discord, so I'm pretty active there. So if you ever want to post anything, there's my Discord. Or if you ever want to ask me a question about something, there's my Discord. Like I said, I'm pretty active on Discord. And I'll probably also post on there if I'm streaming. So, all right, you guys